Warning on the coronavirus. I'm John Scott, and this is a special edition of the Fox Report. It's the bottom of the hour, if you're just joining us. The World Health Organization responding to those allegations, calling them unfounded and untrue. This as a growing number of lawmakers move to punish Beijing for its response to the pandemic. Here to talk about it, Republican Congressman from New Jersey, Chris Smith. He is a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. You are among many writing legislation that you would like to propose and hope to get passed to see China punished for its role in the coronavirus pandemic.
Well, John, first and foremost, we need to get to the truth. And on Tuesday, I'm introducing a bill called the Truth and Accountability Act. The idea there is to, China, and I have been working human rights in China for the entirety of my career in Congress. I've been in for 40 years. And I've been there many times, been barred going there many times in terms of visa denial. They always tell a lie. Often it's the big lie, whether it be Hong Kong, the Uyghurs, religious persecution, the endemic use of and pervasive use of torture. It is ever present that they don't tell the truth. Now there are consequences for the 9,000 people who have died in my district, in my state of New Jersey, and of course all the others throughout our country and throughout the world. They need to be held accountable, John, and they need to be held accountable now. The bill that I introduced on April 17th says very clearly that the Sovereign Immunities Act of 1976 will be waived to allow men and women in our country to come forward, bring a lawsuit against China, and to hold them to account for what they have done. Now, if there's nothing there, when we go through discovery, that'll be laid bare for everyone to see. But there were multiple times in November, especially in December and into early January, where they put out misinformation that sadly was parroted by Dr. Tedros of the WHO. And you're looking at somebody who believes in the World Health Organization. But if they're mismanaged and if they buy into the big distortion and the narrative put out by Beijing, by Xi Jinping in particular, people in my district, in my state, and throughout the country and world will die. And plus so many others who are very sick. Please.
White House trade advisor Peter Navarro was on with Maria Bartiromo and said that at a time when China was publicly proclaiming that the virus could not be transmitted from human to human, it was doing something pretty reprehensible. Listen to what he told Maria.
We also know, Maria, from their own customs data that they vacuumed up virtually all of the world's personal protective equipment, including over 2 billion masks. And we also know that today what China is doing, sitting on that stockpile of what we call PPE, is they're selling it at profiteering prices to some, and to other countries, they're actually putting pressure on those countries to deny the virus came from China or to talk about Taiwan or do other things.
So in some ways, it sounds like China may be profiting from a virus that originated there in that country.
John, again, this is the modus operandi of the Chinese government. After the Tiananmen Square massacre, the Chinese government said over and over again, nobody died in Tiananmen Square. Che He-tian, who was the defense minister of China, visited the White House, got a 19-gun salute, which I thought was appalling. And then he made a statement that no one died at Tiananmen Square, even though CNN, Fox, everybody carried it live, people being bayoneted and killed. The reason I say this, I held a hearing 2 days later while he was still in town and said, you can get away with your lies in China because you control the entire media. You can't get away with it here. You name the issue, and there's distortion on just large amounts of distortion. But this time, people in my district and state and country, in our country, have died from it. That's why I believe we need to have a legal strategy as opposed to a commission that would look into the lack of truth-telling, because this isn't the last infectious disease that we're going to have to deal with. This may come back, as we all know, sometime late in the fall or into December or January. We're not sure, but there will be potentially other pandemics. My legislation would say any country who willfully or with gross negligence misleads the WHO on basic information about an infectious disease like this, like COVID-19, any country would be held liable because we would give the right to sue to men and women who have been harmed by it. It's an idea whose time has come, and I think it will further the ball forward. You know, China is being exposed for not only their gross violations of human rights, it has gotten worse under Xi Jinping. I've chaired over 60 congressional hearings on human rights abuses in China. It's now worse than it's ever been, except under
Congressman.
Yes.
Congressman Chris Smith of New Jersey. We'll keep an eye on your legislation as it is introduced. Thanks very much for being on with us tonight. And for more on this, tune into Fox Nation Presents America versus China, hosted by Maria Bartiromo. The special dives into the pandemic's effect on China and its global ambitions. It airs tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fox News Channel.